morning, students. So here you have your math assignment for Tuesday, September 1st. And we are starting multiplication today, multiplying by one digit. So I'm sure that in fourth grade you started multiplication and you're familiar with it. But if you generally have a hard time with multiplication, I definitely encourage you to Google a multiplication chart so that you can remind yourself of the multiplication table and practice writing your multiplication table, especially if you're having a hard time multiplying quickly. So before we start, we have a review exercises, so we're going to practice adding and subtracting. Remember to line up your numbers to the right as you did last week and complete your speed drill. So here on the bottom we have our multiplication exercises, and tomorrow you will have the same thing. So just be reminded that tomorrow you do not have a book assignment because I want to continue practicing one-digit multiplication before we go on to two-digit multiplication. So remember to write very neatly, as writing sloppy can shift your numbers and cause you to get the questions incorrect. So I'm going to go ahead and do the samples with you. I'm going to grab a pen. And here we have a few simple ones. We're just multiplying by one number on the bottom. So for sample 1, we have 35 times 3. So we would start on the right side. So we would do 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15. So we put the 5 on the bottom and carry the 1. 3 times 3 is 9, plus the 1 that we carried is 10. And that's it. Since we only multiply by one number, we only have to worry about multiplying once. For the second sample, we have multiplication, multiplying one number by 3. So we're going to go ahead, multiply and carry as needed. So we have 6 times 2, which is 12. So we put the 2 down here and carry the 1. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. So we put the 9 under, carry the 1. 6 times 4 is 24. Add 1, 25. And remember, if you have a number in the thousands, that you place a comma. And I'm encouraging you to rewind, relearn, just in case you miss something. Remember down here, when you have the problems that are not lined up for you, that I am strongly encouraging and actually requiring you to use a separate sheet of paper. Also, because I want to see how you are doing your work, and if there's a problem, I can help you correct it. So I'm going to do a sample also for number 7, just to remind you how to line up your numbers for multiplication. So we have 726 times 4. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. So make sure you're writing nice and neat. So we're going to do 4 times 6, and that's going to be 24. So we're going to put the 4 here and carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. So we put the 0 here and carry the 1. 4 times 7 is 28. Add 1, 29. And then a comma. So see how writing straight and neat makes it a lot easier. Also, just another hint, remember that find the product means multiplication. So multiply means the same as product. That means that for number 9, you're going to multiply 184 times 6. If you really are having a hard time with remembering your multiplication, then it is okay to peek at a multiplication table. However, as we move on, it's going to be very important that you have your multiplication table memorized. So I would encourage you to try and not look so much at the multiplication table and practice memorizing if you're having a hard time from 0 to 12 multiplication. If you're having a particularly hard time, please let me know and I will give you a few warm-up exercises. And just once again, remember this page is for Thursday and then we have no school Friday. So you're going to do your worksheet tomorrow as a practice. Here we have our assignment for language arts for Tuesday, September 1st, and we are continuing on the same subject that we did on Monday, yesterday. So practicing with verbs was Monday's assignment, and we're actually going on to think C of the same subject, practicing with verbs. So continuing on, you have a lot of quick sentences, quick exercises to identify verbs. So what you're going to do is underline the verbs 2 times in all of these sentences, and then make sure you look carefully for compound verbs and verb phrases. So you're going to read all of these. You're going to underline the action verbs, and also make sure that you are looking for compound verbs, helping verbs, and remember that you can refer back to page 10, and these will help you identify even more. So that's all you're doing, is just seeing where the verbs are in these sentences, and then on the very bottom you will go back and you will count how many sentences have compound verbs, how many sentences have verb phrases, how many sentences have action verbs. And just make sure, if you don't remember exactly what a compound verb is, or you don't remember exactly what a verb phrase looks like, that's why we have these blue sections here in our past work to refer to. So it's important that you look back. Helping verbs. And if you look back at your previous work, you might get some reminders that will help you. So then for page 16, there isn't a very long exercise. It's mostly just learning about verb forms. And it says, of verbs many faces. You see from the following sentences that writers and speakers of English use verbs in different ways. So here you're going to just read a lot of examples of the way verbs are used. And don't skip this, because although you're not writing a lot on this paper, you are going to be using this information later. So I strongly encourage you to read these out loud and get used to the different forms and the different ways of writing and speaking. So just a quick example for the first section. It says, I wash the dishes every evening for Mother. I washed the dishes every evening last week. I will wash the dishes every evening next week. I have washed the dishes all week. I had washed every dish by 7. So we are going to continue on this entire page with different ways that you can use verbs with the word wash. And this helps when you're doing creative writing, the different forms and the different helping verbs and the different verb phrases that can be used together. So then, like we just said, there's a lot of helping verbs, and it says, do you see why it's important to study verbs? So like I said, please read these out loud, get used to these different phrases, and then tomorrow we will continue on with verb endings. And here for our spelling work for Tuesday, we have our vocabulary page. So usually the second day of your spelling list work, will consist of vocabulary words. And just remember that the vocabulary words are always the last four. So we will be focusing on these last four for most of this page. And like I said last week, if you're still having a little bit of a hard time reading cursive, you can refer to the first page to see them in print, or the next page also has them too. But I encourage you to do your best and try and read cursive, as we are practicing cursive a little bit this year. So remember, just like we did for our last list, you are writing your vocabulary words neatly here, and you're going to look them up in the back of the book. By looking up these four words in the back of the book and finding out their meaning, you're going to have a much easier time completing the rest of this page. Because first you have to match the meaning. So if you don't know the exact meaning, it's very important that you look it up, and they're all in the back. So you're going to match them here. You're going to use one of the four vocabulary words to fill in these sentences, and then you're going to use multiple choice here, and you're going to choose the best meaning for the underlined word. So read the complete sentence, but focus on the underlined word, and then bubble in the word that means the same or almost the same as the underlined word.